Welcome to Kitchen Table Conversations, a series of short and shareable conversation starters for those of us who have or love and support people with a complicated and beautiful brain. Here's your host, Angela Geddes.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Kitchen Table Conversations. So happy that you've decided to tune in once again today. I really do believe that these conversations are so important, and I'm just amazed at the response so far, and I continue to be amazed with how much people still need to learn about some of the most complicated mental health and learning difficulties that people experience. So, for example, yesterday, I was honored to be able to provide some professional development at one of our local public schools. And it was just sort of surprising. I always start with saying, so what do we know about FASD? What have we learned? Has anybody attended any formal training? And out of about 50 people, I have to say, there were 2 people that put their hands up. So I was actually very surprised because I do know that there's a lot of access to research and evidence and training opportunities, whether it be online or in person. And this has been going on quite, passionately for quite some time. However, there seems to be a new crew, I guess, of people who don't really understand the implications of prenatal alcohol exposure. So I started off by giving some statistics around the prevalence rates, which have increased and are still low estimated, but increased from 1 in 100 to now 4 to 5 in 100. So that was stunning to this audience. Also, a lot of understanding that what the symptoms that we're talking about could be related to ADHD, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, and autism spectrum disorder, and other mental health conditions, and a result of trauma and poor parenting. So that's a theme that continues. But I was able to share that FASD is in fact a very indiscriminate disorder, and it's not reserved solely for individuals who are, the offspring of people who really struggle with addictions and mental health. According to the Canadian Guidelines for Diagnosis, for example, 2 incidences of binge drinking is enough to qualify for prenatal alcohol exposure being confirmed, and that there could very well be lifelong and permanent brain damage as a result. So this information continues to be stunning. It continues to be stunning when I share that FASD is in all of our circles and that so very few people actually have a diagnosis. So recent literature and upcoming literature, which will be hopefully out to the public very soon, but by Dr. Lana Popova and a number of other esteemed experts in the field of FASD, they have concluded that globally, fewer than 2% of everyone who would qualify for an FASD diagnosis actually have access to formal assessment services. And in Ontario, that is less than 1%. So we've got 0.5 to 0.8% of Ontarians who have FASD who actually know it. And so instead, they're being supported by misdirected funding and misdirected efforts, oftentimes through our current mental health services, our hospital services that have, policies in place and strategies in place that don't recognize the hidden nuances that are often a part of the impact of prenatal alcohol exposure and other substances, other polysubstances as well. So there is research emerging around marijuana use during pregnancy, and we're showing similar deficits in the area of executive functioning and memory and processing speed, etc. So it's up to all of us to support healthy pregnancies and to ensure that people can make informed decisions. So that's what we're all about. So had the pleasure of meeting with our MPP, our local MPP, Rob Flack, yesterday, who is expressing, I have to say, really passionate interest and seemingly a really, really authentic commitment to doing things differently. So just wanted to do a little shout out to Rob Flack and to thank him publicly for for time spent with us to discuss the implications of prenatal alcohol exposure on all of our social welfare systems, including, of course, our housing initiatives, our poverty and employment initiatives, our mental health services, our hospital services, our justice services, our child protection services. And so we spoke a lot about the emotional cost, first and foremost, to individuals and families who have met just so many wrong doors and are so misunderstood and misdiagnosed. But also, we talked fiscally about the financial realities of misdirected funding. So I gave examples of chart reviews where before individuals turned 9, they had already had $95,000 tallied up in assessment services that proved to be unhelpful. And families were really at risk of falling apart. And in one particular case, I can remember the mother saying to me, if they send me to one more parenting class, Ange, I think I might lose my mind. So again, our tendency is to blame the environment and to blame parenting strategies for being ineffective and for kids to be willfully misbehaving. And this is just simply not the case in so many instances. So yes, and also in child protection, there are thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars being spent because families are pulled apart, placements are breaking down, and each month the housing alone with 2-to-1 or 1-to-1 staffing that's required for individuals can be upwards to $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 a month. And that does not consider the extra use on police involvement, and other volunteers, and the cost to families and other service providers who are trying so hard to improve outcomes. But again, with a behavioral approach and with a trauma-informed practice only, without considering the role of the brain-based condition, we can do more harm than good. So I'm heading right this minute, actually, to the airport to go to our Canada's Research Network, Canadian FASD International Conference in Saskatoon. So I'm thrilled to be a part of it. I'm going to be presenting on building system capacity for assessment services, so assessment team services. So that's a big one that I'm so proud to be involved with Dr. Claire Mitchell, Dr. Louise Scott, Dr. Ashley Bedfield, and Janet Carioni and Mo Oshala, who are occupational therapists and speech and language pathologists, respectively. And then I'm also able to present with Dr. Brianne Redquest and some other folks from CAMH on a research project that we participated in demonstrating efficacy with regards to acceptance, commitment, training, and therapy for caregivers of individuals with FASD. So very honored and excited to be a part of this work. And I'll sign off now, thanking you once again for your time and your commitment to these issues. And I would ask that if you appreciate the contact within, please share, because these are really, really important conversations and we cannot do this alone. It shouldn't be a 5-minute conversation informally downtown St. Thomas where politicians say to me, Ange, I've learned more in 5 minutes talking to you about FASD than I have my whole life. We need to keep having these conversations so that fewer people are misunderstood and there are fewer wrong doors, and the cost to individuals, families, and our systems are significantly reduced. With many thanks, Angela.